Phipps here. Welcome to our Faith Family Freedom broadcast. It's an exciting time, and we're so glad that you have taken time out of busy schedules to share some of that time with us on today's broadcast. It's always a delight to have special guests on our broadcast, and today is no exception. I am honored to have the former Indiana Secretary of State, Ed Simcox, and he's joining us for today's broadcast. A little background on Ed. He has served in so many capacities it would take a lot of time just to enumerate the various places of leadership where he has had involvement. He served two terms from 1978 to 1986 as Indiana Secretary of State. He's worked on prison ministries, most notably with Charles Colson, or Chuck Colson, many call him by that name. And Ed's his resume, like I said, is awesome. He's still serving. He's still working. He has a new book out titled "In the Room," and he takes us behind the scenes where deliberations and where decisions were made that had an impact on all of the citizens, not only of our state, but in other areas at the federal level. So it's an honor today to have a friend, Indiana's former Secretary of State, Ed Simcox. Ed, good to have you with us tonight.
It's wonderful to be with you, Andrew.
Well, I certainly appreciate it. You're a busy person, and I thank you that you would take time out of your schedule to share with us about your book and some of the history lessons that are so invaluable. I mean, you've had an illustrious career. You've also been a deeply committed Christian with Chuck Colson and others, and a prison ministry. I can't begin to enumerate all of the various facets of your distinguished career. I want you to tell us a little bit what prompted you to write this memoir, In the Room.
Well, and I will say to you, Andrew, it's available on Amazon if anybody's interested in the book. For many years after I left the Secretary of State's office, I've still been deeply involved in Indiana government and politics, and I've known 15 governors. I work closely with 8 of them. I write about that. I've been a member of the nation's electoral college. I devote a chapter to that. I was involved in perhaps the most controversial and famous recount, congressional
Yes.
recount in the nation's history, and it was in 1984. I was at the center of that when I was Secretary of State, and I devote a couple of chapters to that. And then, as you said, Andrew, uh, I was deeply involved with Charles Colson, who was a prolific author, a great Christian statesman. He he was he was special counsel to President Nixon in the White House, and he went to prison for 7 months in the Watergate scandal. And when he came out of prison, he had many offers to go and make a lot of money in business and industry and do other things. And God called him to go into prison ministry. He formed the largest prison ministry in the world, Prison Fellowship Ministries. I served
Yes.
on that board for almost 30 years. I was on the board. And then I was a founder and a board member of another organization called the Colson Center for Christian Worldview, which basically is a ministry to the churches in the country to make the churches realize their obligation and duty to uh, teach their flock, their congregants, their believers, what it really means to act out being a Christian in today's culture, in which is sometimes a hostile culture, as we know we live in it today. And Charles Colson was very involved in that work, so I write about that. So I've had a lot of great experiences, and all through the years I thought I wanted to put them down so that perhaps I could speak to. Uh, in my view, I wanted to speak to the next generation and even the one after that, young people today who don't have a full understanding or appreciation of political history, of governmental history in the state of Indiana, and then how the merger of religion and politics, how it's done, and how I report how I did it. I don't do it as perhaps as some others do it, have done it in their lives, but it has been a very important thing for me to navigate that merger, which is tricky, but nevertheless is very important. And so I tell all of those stories in the book.
Well, I know that you mentioned about the bloody eighth, the race between McCloskey and McIntyre, and you talk about
Yes.
that, and you also talk about the great Christmas present when you were relieved of some, I don't know, allegations that you thought might really hinder you. And through all the reading that I have done, and I try to read some just whenever I read some today. And I think the inspiration that you give to us, Ed, is this. I remember a quote that Mark Hatfield, the late senator from out in Oregon, wrote, and he said, at the National Prayer Breakfast. He made these remarks, I believe. I've got it memorized. He said, for the Christian man to reason that God does not want him involved in politics because it is too dirty is as insensitive as a Christian doctor refusing to go to an epidemic because there are too many germs there. And so, throughout your book, one of the themes that I think runs concurrently throughout was the idea that we have to search and reach for integrity, that it's always right to do what's right, and not to hold a malice, and not to hold grudges. And politics, as we both know, can be a very brutal activity. And seems like we're seeing a lot of vitriol today with people demonizing others, and using a lot of bad language and making nasty accusations, even threats. And so, what do you think we can do about this, Ed, besides pray and ask God to give us discernment?
Well, that's a very key question, isn't it? When you quote Mark Hatfield, and of course, Mark Hatfield was a great friend of Charles Colson. Mark Hatfield also happened to be, before was senator, he happened to be Secretary of State in his state of
I
Oregon.
didn't,
And,
I didn't know that.
and yes, and I relate to that. And of course, then he chaired a Billy Graham crusade, and I did too in 1999 here in Indiana. So I
Right.
felt
I
like
went
I
to
have
that.
I feel like I have some things in common with Mark Hatfield, but I also have in common with him the idea that the Christian has a responsibility to be involved in the political system. There was a time, when churches sort of receded. They felt like politics was a dirty business. They shouldn't be involved in it. Their people should kind of stay out of it, stay away from it. And a man who had a great influence on my life was Carl F.H. Henry. He was a great theologian. He was a mentor to Chuck Colson, and therefore also a mentor to me. And he was one of the founding members of Christianity Today magazine. He worked with Billy Graham. They worked together as young men in ministry. And he was a man who Chuck Colson liked to say was the father of modern Christian worldview. urging the church to get the people in the churches to get out of the pews into the marketplace, into the culture, compete for people's minds and hearts, and explain the importance of Christianity. And so picking up from the Mark Hatfields of the world, the Charles Colsons, the Carl Henrys, I, in some small way, felt that I needed to do that, and I devoted myself to that over really 60 years of being involved in politics in Indiana.
Welcome to 2026. Like many of you, I have already started planning my reading list for the year, and I would like to recommend a special book by a special person. My dad, Andrew Phipps, has written his memoir entitled It's Always a Struggle, but based on his childhood all the way through his adult life and professional career. Add this book to your reading list for 2026. It's Always a Struggle, but by Andrew Phipps.
If you would like to add It's Always a Struggle But by Andrew Phipps to your 2026 reading list, you can purchase the book directly through the website at Phipps-Faith-Family-Freedom.org. All proceeds support the important work of faith, family, and freedom that Brother Andrew has championed throughout his life.
Friends, this is Andrew Phipps, and over the years I was privileged to do a handbook titled Faith, Family, Freedom. You know, America was birthed in freedom. We believe that our history of our development as a nation needs to be promulgated and promoted. This handbook has been made available to members of Congress, governors. It has been made available for state legislatures. It has been purchased at places by churches for the congregants. I think that you would really enjoy this Faith, Family, Freedom Handbook. It has the major features of the American system. It has quotations galore. The pictorial quality is just beyond belief. And the content, I think, if you've ever thought about your faith, your family, your freedom, I think that you would like to have this handbook that is so titled. I think that the information provided will challenge, enlighten, inspire each one of us to be great citizens. You know, our faith is a treasured heritage, not a contemporary experiment. And this is Andrew Phipps. Hello, friends. This is Andrew Phipps, and I believe that we need all of the materials that we can gather to help us as we combat the attack upon our faith, our family, and our freedoms. We need to be educated, and I have a handbook that has been given to state legislatures. It's been given to members of Congress. It's a colorfully created handbook that has graphs, charts, quotes, and different things in it. You'll be impressed with it. And also we have DVDs. We have CDs that are God and Country, Return to Greatness, and Faith, Family, and Freedom, some other wonderful materials. See the contact information on the screen. Be sure that you order some because these will be of a tremendous help. They are supplemental materials to help you in your Christian walk. and may God bless. If you'd like to have any of our products, we do have a Faith, Family, and Freedom handbook. We have some DVDs. We did one with Pastor Jim Scudder in Washington, D.C. a little over a year ago. It's called Can You Find God in D.C.? I think you will enjoy the beautiful programming that was done in the Jefferson and Lincoln Memorials and other places. If you want any of our products, just call us or get in touch with us as would be indicated there on the screen.
Are you looking for inspiration that uplifts your spirit and strengthens your faith? Join Andrew Phipps on Phipps-Faith-Family-Freedom, where we bring you sound biblical teachings.
I think you're going to find the Faith, Family, and Freedom program today challenging.
Powerful testimonies that touch the heart.
The hardest thing that I've ever done in my life was to sit in a hospital room and watch my son die. And there was nothing I could do. And as difficult as it still is, I've never experienced anything that has made me more aware of the love of God.
Gospel music that stirs the soul.
So many times you made the trip with empty water pots and left without enough to fill the smallest one you brought.
And messages that remind us of the values that make our nation strong.
March the 23rd, 1775, Patrick Henry stood in front of the Bruton Parish Church.
Don't miss out. Watch full episodes on YouTube or visit our website to learn more. Phipps-Faith-Family-Freedom, where faith, family, and freedom come alive.
Well, you know, I think, Brother Ed, as long as I have known you, everyone that I know that's associated with government or state leadership, they have the kindest words for you. And, you know, integrity is so important. And I think sometimes that many people that would maybe get involved feel like they just can't take the heat. You know, Harry Truman said, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen, and the buck stops here. But I'm hoping that because of your influence and others, maybe we all together can encourage folks to stand for truth, to speak truth to error. Your friend and mine, Mike Pence, says truth becomes hate to those who hate the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes. I'm fortunate to be in a Bible study with Mike even today. I was with him during his governorship, working with him, and there again, Andrew, I devote a chapter to Mike Pence in the book. I tell of
If you,
yes
yeah,
of what he did and the things that he accomplished, and I talk about his faith.
yeah. And you, of course, Otis Bowen and uh,
Ed
Governor
Whitcomb.
Whitcomb. Oh, yeah. I interviewed Governor Whitcomb one time, and his book, Escape from Corregidor, you know, he was a great patriot. And
Yes, he was.
so,
Yes, he was.
and I want to thank you for joining us. We've been trying to do this, and you're a busy man, and I feel honored that you would do it for our program.
Well, years ago, when I was in office, I believe, I know you've been doing this for a very long time, and that you've also contributed and donated your own influence and skill to politics over the years. And so I just like to say to you, Andrew, that it's great to come back on this program after many years and with the book and to discuss these things with you. I think it's more important now than it ever was, than it ever has been during my pretty long career in politics to speak out, to pray for those in authority, to hold them accountable, and to do what God would have us do in this country in its 250th year and on into the future.
Well, you know, Benjamin Franklin said, the longer I live, the more of a truth I perceive, that if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, how can empires rise without his aid? And Ed, thank you.
Amen.
Thank you for being with us. And we need to do this again sometime. And tell Sandra, your wife, and the family that we send our best regards, okay?
I certainly will. I certainly will. And again, it's so good to be with you and to reach out to your listeners and your viewers.
Have a good day. God bless.
God bless you. Thank you.
Andrew Phipps here, and I'm hoping that we can get the Save America Act passed, get it through. I don't know why the majority leader, John Thune, is having so much difficulty, and it infuriates Americans to know that the Senate has gone on a recess and vacation. Listen, we've said it previously. Maybe it needs to be reiterated. I would call the Senate into a filibuster session where you go around the clock and then reporters and networks can see for themselves those who are opposed to having the Save America Act, which literally means let's have fair elections. That's the bottom line. We don't need illegals voting in our elections. We don't need people that are not that have no voting credibility, that don't have a license or don't have a photo ID that can prove that they are who they say they are. We don't need to have ballots harvested where people just use the names of phone book people or dead people or whatever. Elections need to be fair. They need to be accurate. They need to have integrity. We want everybody that meets the qualifications to vote. We're not trying to disenfranchise any group, any race, any gender. We're just simply saying, let's keep it fair. Let's make sure that the votes are counted for those who actually met the criteria, the eligibility standards to vote, that have met the residence requirements in their states. They are on the rolls. We must have a voter ID, a photo ID. We need to make sure that the elections are clear and clean. Otherwise, why have an election if you can just pad the rolls and bring in voters from wherever and vote carte blanche to pad the voters and then have the candidate that the political bosses want to be certified? It's not right. It's ugly. 80% of the American people, basically close to it, from all races and backgrounds, think we ought to have it. And I urge our senators and those that will have the qualification to make these decisions to get the Save America Act and get it done now.
There's something special about memories. Like a camera, they bring into focus bygone days, special events, and sights and sounds from another time. Andrew Phipps believes that we never want to lose the snapshots of our heritage, so we invite you to join us as we present the great gospel music of yesteryear while strolling down memory lane together.
Well, the sun's gonna come up in the morning, and the joy of the Lord's gonna rise with the dawn. He'll write mercy in their story. The sun's gonna come up in the morning. Sun's gonna come up in the morning. Ever had a bad day that you couldn't wait to end? Ever needed a second chance to do it all over again? Well, here's the good news. When you lay down tonight, there's gonna be a clean slate at the first sign of light. Well, the sun's gonna come up in the morning, and the joy of the Lord's gonna rise with the dawn. He'll write mercy in their story. The sun's gonna come up in the morning. Sun's gonna come up in the morning. We live crazy world. And it sure can get you down, but the love of God is greater, and it'll never run out. So when you feel like you're at the end of your rope, don't you ever give up. Don't you ever give up. Keep holding on to hope, holding on to hope. Well, the sun's gonna come up in the morning, and the joy of the Lord's gonna rise with the dawn. He'll write mercy into your story. The sun's gonna come up in the morning. Sun's gonna come up in the morning. Yeah. Well, the sun's gonna come up in the morning, and the joy of the Lord's gonna rise with the dawn. And he'll write mercy into your story. The sun's gonna come up in the morning. Sun's gonna come up in the morning. Well, the sun's gonna come up in the morning, and the joy of the Lord's gonna rise with the dawn. He'll write mercy into your story. The sun's gonna come up in the morning. Sun's gonna come up in the morning. Well, the sun's gonna come up in the morning, and the joy of the Lord's gonna rise with the dawn. He'll write mercy into your story. The sun's gonna come up in the morning. Sun's gonna come up in the morning. He'll write mercy into your story. The sun's gonna come up in the morning. Sun's gonna come up in the morning.
Sam Pierce Chevrolet is proud to sponsor this Down Memory Lane segment. They are committed to wonderful memories with friends made over the years, and they want to create more memories, new memories with you, their customers. You are special at Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville, Indiana. Thanks for the memories.